Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and as we like to do early in the week here on the show, revisit with my good buddy, pal, friend, chum, comrade, and pretty much co-host 1A, as Brian is still world traveler and everything else. Well, I promise he'll return, but in the interim, we're going with the youth versus the old guys. So how's it going, Flash? What's up, man?
Out with the old, in with the new. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it feels great. What an introduction. That's great. If we could do that every Monday show, I'll love it. We can just bring me on in like that, pepper me with the compliments, ease me on in, and then, slap me over the side of the head with Mason Rudolph talk. It seems to be the schedule we're on.
Wait a minute. I think it's about 40 seconds in here. We didn't even make it a full minute without mentioning quarterbacks. I mean, who would have thought it? I think I was listening to the SNR guys in the morning and throughout the weekend too, and I believe...
Yeah, we are not the only ones, don't worry.
Yeah, Labs, I think, said he made it to 9:03 this morning or something, like before they got talking about quarterbacks. Who would have thunk it,
I just want it to be over, man. I honestly, I can't wait. Trust me. I know this is helping steer the ship here on the show, but I can't wait till it's over. I just want to know who the quarterback's going to be so we can stop talking in unknown situations. Stop talking in unabsolutes, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is all these hypotheticals that we have to keep bringing up, not just us, every other show, whether it's a podcast or on TV.
That's not going to happen. It's never going to be over. And it's never going to be over. We're going to be 10 games into the season and we're still going to be talking about this, because regardless if it's Mitch, regardless if it's Mason, more than likely everyone's going to be yelling for Kenny, because there's half of the Steelers nation out there has paid zero attention to what's going on in training camp. I see it from all of the social media posts that are out there, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, wherever. They're like, oh yeah, Kenny's got this. It's like, what? Kenny is not taking those many reps. I even heard, I forgot who was one of the guests on SNR. They brought somebody on and they're talking too about how Kenny's going to dress on game days. I'm like, the Steelers do not dress QB3s on game days. That is a wasted spot for, I don't know, if an offensive or defensive lineman gets hurt, you know what I mean? And even then, they're not dressing all of those guys. It's just, that was one of the most ludicrous things I'd ever heard in my life. If they're going to dress him, he's got to be QB2. They don't dress 3. A lot of teams don't even roster 3 quarterbacks. That's been my main problem, I think, throughout this training camp. Like you said, we're hearing the things we hear. For example, this is fun. It's a little bit of fun stuff here. Friday Night Lights ticket. I wish it had the date on it, because this will be a collectible item, even though they probably sold close to 15,000 of them. Rained out, lightning. And it was a shame, because I finally got the roster, printed rosters. They didn't hand these out anywhere else during camp. And finally, Cameron Niza-Alec, the other punter I've been talking about all this time, I'm like, what the hell? He's wearing 4. He's wearing number 4. And they keep listing him as number 16 on the Steelers app. So that was kind of driving me crazy. But I had to listen to, for example, Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller, guys I really, really like, SiriusXM NFL Radio. They were there Friday in Latrobe at the Memorial Stadium for the Friday Night Lights. Got rained out. I guess they got put up in a locker room and they were doing some interviews and talking. And Jim Miller even made some comments for Chris Oladokun, let alone from saying, well, most teams are just keeping 2 quarterbacks and they'll keep somebody on the practice squad, and they're probably looking to trade Mason Rudolph. And of course, this goes into the talk that we were going to do anyway, so you're not really steering the ship. We can come back and do the little flash round and the flashcards. But one of the things I had to bring up constantly was the first and second teams, if you're going to call them that, really aren't first and second teams. And I get, I feel like a broken record saying this, but it seems like I always have to keep repeating. And so you might have Mitch in there with the first offensive line, the starters, the presumed starters, which could also, as the depth chart shows, as Kevin Dotson and Kendrick Green listed as kind of co-starters. We've seen this happen once before.
They did that
And
with Bush and Spillane too, and
yeah,
Witherspoon and Wallace.
yeah, and well, that's because they're probably going to play. They play like with a lot of additional DBs or like nickel.
I
Nickel
know,
is
but
going to be three
they're
four.
together on the
Yeah,
line. Like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
one and two, those are the
and
scenarios where we have two guys starting in one spot.
yeah, and they have Millette also as listed as strictly nickel.
Just
Also,
nickel. He's the only one there.
yeah, and he's the only one there. That's because Cam Sutton like sometimes slides in. Cam Sutton was playing. He was dabbling a little bit even on third teams. Like there's a defined third team is what I should say. First and second team depends on who's having veteran days off, who's injured. There's a lot of guys pulling double duty, but I've even seen Mitch go out there and take snaps from JC Hassenauer and the other line, and they actually did that with some of the drills, some of the down and distance drills. And I know everybody sees the statistics that are out there. That one kind of drove me crazy. People were tracking, incompletions and touchdowns and yards. And I'm like, and what drills? Because there's been a lion's share of snaps. Trubisky by far has the most, probably, attempts. And Mason is pretty close to an even split, but Kenny got some kind of second turn. Like they're taking turns in these reps, and they're all throwing the Boykin, they're all throwing the Anthony Miller. When Claypool was healthy the first week of camp, they were throwing to him too. So it's like it's a rotation. Jay Sternberger's catching passes from everyone, and there's tight ends we'll have something to talk about too because they're pretty deep there for the first time in a while, I think. So that's
Absolutely.
the part. Yeah, that's the part that's kind of been bugging me because the media, like the guys on Sirius XM, Kerwin felt immediately, and he was a former general manager in the league, I believe, with the Jets, and he pretty much said, "Well, if you don't think there's a team that wouldn't take Rudolph in a trade, you'd be crazy. He has value or whatever." But just the Jim Miller saying he'd be traded. I'm gonna ask you this, Flash. Do you believe in your number one? I think we feel that Kenny's being kind of set up to sit this year, the way things are playing out. But the second part of that is more or less, and not just kind of dumping on the XM guys. They're kind of carrying, or the national people are kind of carrying the same sort of sentiment or the same narrative that Mason Rudolph would be set up for a trade. Or what I'm basically going to ask you here is between Mitch and Mason, why would there be more even split with Mitch and Mason if they weren't competing for the starting job versus developing your first round quarterback and having more of a split between Kenny and Mason, or just trying to prep Kenny to be QB2 or the primary backup? It just seems to me like they would much rather have Mitch and Mason prepared and sit Kenny for a year, even though like some of the talking heads on the TV and the radio and whatnot, I don't know, suggest otherwise, because they're just kind of overlooking the entire situation. Because I think more or less because they haven't seen it with their own eyes, and that's a lot of the problem with the folks out there that are discussing this.
Yeah, okay, I understand the question. Now, I think it's because the Steelers are trying to have it all. They want to have their cake and eat it too. I don't think anything is wrong with the approach at what they're doing with the quarterback competition. I think they're going about it as intelligently as they could. Whereas, like you're saying, they're giving a lion's share to Mitch, who they are operating and assuming that he will be the starter. It seems that way anyway. We've said that many times on this show, and there are some people who disagree because they think that's us saying that Mitch has clearly looked the best and Mitch deserves to be the one, and there's no way he won't be the one. That's not what we're saying, but the Steelers are operating under that assumption, giving him a majority of the first reps, letting him go first in the drills, treating him like he's the starter. It's apparent if you go to at least two practices, one practice. You can pick it out if you're watching the flow of practice and how they go about divvying the reps up. Mason has been the 2 for the most part. Kenny's been the 3. I think that the idea of trading Mason only has legs if Kenny is able to improve through the practices that he has left in the preseason games that he has left. I don't think there's zero ground to stand on to the people that suggest trading Mason, but Kenny needs to get better and fast. And to his credit, from what I've been able to follow along with and see, he has been getting better. In particular, in 7 shots, he's been getting a small amount of reps in 7 shots, but in the amount that he has been given, he's been scoring touchdowns. The first day I was there, the only day I was there was the day that they had pads on, and I immediately picked up on him looking more comfortable. But the idea of trading,
one of those was a shovel pass, by the way. I just have to throw that in there.
That's how Mason scored on 7 shots.
I know. It's like, you see, I was talking about the stats, right? I was just talking about stats and stats tracking. What you're not seeing in there is like the shovel passes. So
yeah,
I mean,
Well,
it's
he's
still a
been steadily
touchdown, but
improving since his first couple rough practices.
yeah,
I think that's
I agree.
apparent. Kenny has been, but still not enough for the Steelers to trade Mason. But if he is able to be the two, then the idea of just having Mason be the three and take up a roster spot, like you alluded to, and was an old point of mine of why it would be a good thing if Kenny could win the two spot, it'd free up a roster spot so we wouldn't have to carry three quarterbacks. That could happen, but right now it is still it doesn't seem like that's in the cards for the Steelers right now because Mason seems like he has a firm enough grasp on the two spot that they aren't looking to shop him. But if Kenny can keep getting better and make the Steelers feel like they're comfortable enough with him being the two, so that if needed to be called up this year, he's ready, then the idea of trading Mason becomes much more realistic and an idea that I can get behind. I've taken more of a liking to the idea of him staying on the team this year and being the primary backup. But that is all again operating under the assumption that Kenny won't be ready. I hope Kenny is ready. That's what I'm rooting for. I still think there is chance and potential. And I've been encouraged with his steady progression through the first few practices, but it's going to be hard for him to overtake not only the two spot, but the one spot with the limited amount of reps that he's being given. And the fact that it's looking like, unless something dramatically changes, when the preseason gets underway here, he will be going third in the games, probably for all of the games. And it's going to take a lights out performance, which again, I hope happens, but it's going to take a lights out performance from him to move up the depth chart before week one starts here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't
that's
think it's
fair.
that like, oh my God, this is so stupid to suggest trading Mason. If Kenny gets better, then it could be a thing. But right now, there's no need to force that conversation or kind of like stick that square peg in a round hole. Not right now.
No, and that's pretty much the way like Labs and them they were talking about it, and it just
The
it
Steelers have to get Mason ready because they don't know if Kenny's gonna be ready. So
yeah.
that's what they have to do that. Like so, in their minds, they're not trading Mason right now, but it could be on the table. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It was more like a more elaboration. I think we've talked about this multiple times over the last months,
Mm-hmm.
years. It feels like you said, you'd like to get it over with, but I don't think it's ever going to be gotten over with. And
No, because even if Kenny
yeah,
starts week one, like I get my wish, and he's the starter for a majority of the year, I know there's going to be games and plays where he makes mistakes, and you're going to get the people that like, oh, this is why we should have started Mitch. This is why you shouldn't have forced Kenny out there, and this, that, and the other. So there really is going to be no end to it. But I guess what I should have better articulated is I just can't wait for there to be a confirmed starter named, so we can at least get past that portion of this never-ending argument. I feel like we're in the preamble of the Steelers quarterback competition of this season.
and I've been like more of I've been a Mason guy. Give him a shot. I heard Wolfley kind of say the same thing his last two starts. A lot of things that look better. I tire of some of the Mitch talk about, oh, he was on such a bad Bears team, and I was like, the rest of that team was pretty solid. Yes, he had some guys around him. Like I bring up 2019, like who did Mitch or Mason, I mean, have around him back then? He didn't even have a quarterbacks coach. Mason has been around for 4 years, and it's like, well, yeah, but they switched offensive coordinators, they switched offenses. So while you might think he might look more comfortable when you're playing with twos and threes, those are the guys you're playing with are the twos and threes. You got to get up to speed and get comfortable with, we'll say the ones, the actual starters, like Deontay Johnson, for example. And he was a rookie back then in 2019. So how much comfort or familiarity was there with Rudolph right out the gate then? And obviously he had some rapport with James Washington. I think he led the team in receiving yards that season with Mason and Duck as his quarterback. That's the thing. Like I see the comments about they should have kept Dobbs, they should have kept Duck, and it's just some of it's just incredible
I
nonsense.
think
And
it should be apparent to everyone that Duck wasn't cut out for the
no,
NFL, i.e., he's not in the NFL.
yeah, he's now he's well, he's back to his professional duck calling and stuff, and good for him. And what a
Yeah,
Cinderella story was. And I got
follow
caught,
your
I got
passions,
caught in
bro.
that hype too, man. FCS guy, I saw him play in college against my alma mater. I mean, it was pretty cool stuff, pretty cool stuff. But we do have like the reason we say the things we say about how the Steelers are operating and why it irks me about some of these things. You would think that people, especially Jim Miller, like Jim Miller is a former Steeler, you know what I mean? And he's been part of, I believe Jim Miller was part of that team when they had the 4 quarterbacks, and Cordell Stewart was technically like / wide receiver, but they have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, and he's talking about how they might keep 2. I'm like, Jim, they've never kept just 2 since you've been around, since you were on the team, and like just 2. The only time they rostered 2 was Duck. And Mason got like knocked out, and he was on, whatever the concussion protocol list. And technically, he doesn't count against. He's like exempt from the 53.
No, I mean they always like Ben and Landry, Ben and Mason. It was never like there's always been 3 the whole time.
Yeah. Even with Landry Jones and when Gronkowski got hurt, this was the precedent I was going to say. They brought in Michael Vick. Tomlin was still leery on just having Landry Jones as a starter. And you could say what you want to say about Landry and whatnot. He had been around the team for a few years. Mason gets drafted. Mason didn't ascend to be the backup behind Ben in his rookie year. They had Josh Dobbs beat out Landry Jones. And yeah, going back even a little bit further, I want to say off the top of my head, like you had Charlie Batch and Dennis Dixon, you had Charlie Batch and Byron Leftwich, you had Tommy Maddox, Charlie Batch, and Ben Roethlisberger.
It just blows my mind that they never kept 2. I thought for sure there was a year where they just had Landry and Ben, or Ben and Mason, but I'm tripping.
No, I'm not going to say you're tripping, but I think Gronkowski got hurt, and Vic came in. And then Tomlin was forced to play Jones because of the injury to Vic, and that's kind of the precedent that I see with both not playing a rookie or an inexperienced player versus playing a veteran, and how that plays out and factors into like the Trubisky and Rudolph stuff. That's something a little more fresh that I hadn't talked about yet on here over the last couple of months. So. The reason I don't think I have 0 notes because the last show I already did, and I know some people didn't even get one of these. The practice was canceled on Friday Night Lights and on Saturday. Saturday wasn't technically canceled, but it was closed to the media. And so let me explain what that means. When they had the closed practice and they went over to the south side, and everybody assumed they were going to go indoors and they didn't, you could only report on anything that you can get confirmed from a player via interview. So like if they ask Mitch Trubisky like 7 shots about some play, I think to Gunnar Olszewski, or Kenny to a play to Connor Hayward, and when those players give them the sound bites, they can now like report on it. You don't have like just the randomness of people in the public being able to just sit there, which is what I like, not having the media shackle or handcuffs. And now I could say these guys ran pony formation, or they're running a lot of 2 tight end sets or stuff like that, because it's public access, publicly available information. Whereas when it's closed practice, that's all she wrote. They tried to shoot down the drone a few years ago and then built the wall there too, the big tarp. So I'm kind of curious because there's some people that are like pseudo media that have reported on some things, and I'm like, did they see this themselves? Were they there? Were they not there? Or what kind of trouble might they get into for saying some of the things? Because you can't verify it. Anybody that's responsible from, like, let's say, a journalistic integrity aspect should be corroborating this with it. You can't just do it with one source. You got to have multiple sources. And that's why it usually says sources. When you see something that just says source in a tweet, it drives me absolutely crazy, because more than likely it means it's a lie or it's hearsay. So, or embellished to some degree. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say about some of that. We should also, I'm going to have to pull up the Mike Tomlin quote as well, because somebody asked him if he named the starting quarterback because of the depth chart being released. And his comment to something was just like, that we had to release a depth chart. And in the years past, he said, I wouldn't read much into this with any of these things. So everybody all of a sudden made cutesy little graphics and put Mitch Trubisky is the starter and this and that. And I mean, it is his job to lose, but he certainly could lose it depending on what happens. These preseason games are going to be huge. And one of the big things was the distribution of snaps and plays and how much somebody's going to play in the preseason. And you just kind of alluded to that with maybe Kenny gets like a whole half of a game. You know what I mean? Yeah, like Dwayne Haskins maybe got the whole game. But I actually heard one of the SNR folks mention Oladokin. And maybe Oladokin gets a half of the third game. And I said to myself, like, Oladokin is not prepped and ready to throw a pass in any type of action. They have not used him whatsoever. I don't think that he would have to practice quite a bit. And of course, camp's going to be over ahead of the second preseason game where they go to Jacksonville, and then camp breaks. So we'll see, but are they going to put that many resources like 2-3 weeks before the start of the regular season in a QB4 that's likely going to be on the practice squad if he's even still a member of the team? I don't
think
know.
it's more likely to assume he'll get like maybe half of a quarter of that third last game. Like they'll put him in to like put him in and run very vanilla plays with him, ones that he can't mess up, which I mean, I say that it's preseason, so something could go wrong, but I think he'll get like half of a quarter maybe.
Yeah, it'll be ugly football regardless. And I mean, it just reminds you of like, I know people got like excited over guys like Dustin Vaughn in the past. And it's like, come on.
Did he start? I don't remember. Did he start a game for us in preseason?
Yeah, because I think of the Gradkowski injury.
Yeah,
if I recall
correctly.
correctly, somebody was banged up and hurt, and he was out there. But it's like one of those camp arm things. They had like the guy that was like a backup at Wisconsin the one year, Bart something or other. That was
Bart Houston, baby.
Was that who it was? Bart Houston. Yes. I'm just like, wait a minute. Did you just say you had like a fantasy preseason? It would not surprise me if you bet on. I know this guy over here bets on the DraftKings. Probably you were probably asking about that Hall of Fame game. In fact, it might have been you that I saw that tweeted that out. You're betting on the Hall of Fame game on DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever.
Oh yeah, I won. Raiders money line. That hit. Then not only that, they won the first half. I got over first half. Over in the first half was 15 and a half, and they scored 16. And then I had Raiders money line to win too. So yeah, I cleaned up that night.
Yo, man, you don't cease to amaze me. I'm going to surprise you though for a minute.
Well, listen, I went off good faith because I saw on Twitter that McDaniels was talking about how he was from Canton or something like that, and I was like, oh, that's enough motivation for the boys. He's going to have the Raiders win this one, and it came to fruition. So I'm not complaining.
That's some funny stuff, man. But I was gonna say, throughout like the week I was out over in Latrobe and Greensburg area, I had an obscene amount of McDonald's while on the road.
That's
I
the
ran
best
the
time
gamut.
to have it. Calories don't count when you're on the road.
I'm talking breakfast, lunch, dinner. I was almost supersizing me. I will digress though. If anybody caught up with me, I was talking a lot of football with folks at Permanis too. I was living at Permanis for the week too. So it was like an off on. That would be like you saying Chili's was the gourmet McDonald's, like Permani's like the gourmet fast food. And
I love Permani's, bro.
Oh man, I can't get enough of it. Like injected into my veins, especially the Bolscape kielbasa. I had to do that, and they still have like a version of that HBK sandwich too. It's like on a side subset of the menu. Of course, we're talking to franchise satellite locations, not downtown Pittsburgh, the OG.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like what is it? It's like bacon, ham, and kielbasa, the HBK.
After
the HBK line with the pens. So, but they call it like when pigs fly or something now, which is fine with me. I was like, man, this is like a good. I'm a carnivore, man. When
Meat lovers.
Yes, when I get a pizza, like throw it all on there, man. I'll do it all. Pepperoni, salami, sausage, bacon, ham, do it all. And
I gotta be in the mood for that.
Yeah.
I'm a pizza purist, so I like just like cheese and pepperoni most of the time. But if I'm feeling freaky, I will do a meat lover's pizza. Pause.
Yeah. You know what? I do that too. It's like it's because the kids are picky eaters, so it's like cheese or pepperoni usually, But every now and then, one of my other pleasures, that was the BOGO. They had the BOGO pizzas, so it was like up to 3 toppings. It was chicken.
Oh, the buy one get one.
Yeah, chicken, bacon, and mushroom, which is a really nice like savory combo. I did not get pineapples. I do not have anything against people who like pineapple on their pizza. And
I do.
I
do. That's jail worthy. You're doing 5 to 10. If you're gonna put pineapple on pizza around me, that's 5 to 10.
A white pizza, pineapple, ham or bacon. Or if you got like some type of like a garlic spread on it, that's a special treat, man. But
I love garlic.
It's it loves me too. Loves me right back.
I'm like the opposite of a vampire. You wear a necklace of garlic knots around your neck, I'm gonna come closer to you, not get farther away.
Oh man, I have to bring this up though, and I sound like so. I visited the folks. I had my mom in town, took her back, stayed in the old room for a night too, while I was on all of this trip and traveling the last couple of weeks. And my old room, like the sun comes in that time of day. My mom has never apparently heard of blackout curtains, or just maybe they hadn't. They've changed since I was a kid. There's not like He-Man or Transformers on the wall anymore, but it's like. I said the same thing to her. I mentioned a vampire. It's what made me think of it. I'm like, is this the room where you kill vampires? And she just like looked at me. I'm like, it's so bright. Like as soon as I wake up, it's like, I'm done. I'm done. You can't even put on like an eye mask, you know? And what's the
Yeah,
deal with the eye mask? Come on, $1.25 tree. It's $1.25 tree now. They raised the prices. Like
I
everything
know.
they have is like tiger stripes and like really like, I know nobody else is going to
Happy.
see it, but I still feel funny with like the glitter and the foo-foo type stuff. I'm like, I'm secure enough in my masculinity.
The
I
Hello
could,
Kitty mask.
yeah, I could maybe do that, like, but it's just like, especially when you're checking out in the aisle by yourself with these type of items. So
You feel like you gotta explain to the cashier. It's like it's not for me. I promise.
not for
She's in the
me,
car.
not for me. Yeah, it's oh man. So
I do that when I order a lot of food at one place. I'm like, the other person's coming. Trust me.
that's actually great. I'm gonna have to use that at some point. Well, I still think, and there's still a lot of talk. There was talk about this like all throughout the week too, various media outlets and whatnot. And I don't know why. That's like one thing that came up was Tevin Jenkins, is whether the Bears would end up trading him. The Bear, like he's not practicing. The dude has
Oh, he's
been
on
like,
my flashcards
go
here.
for
Dave
it.
the
Let's
quick
do it. Let's
hitters.
do it. Because you might hit a couple of the things that I got coming here too. Yeah, because I
So it's
told
a
you.
lightning bolt because we
I
don't have the graphic yet. But
well,
these are
I got to make a graph. I will find lightning, but I have an empty notepad, man. It's like I went over everything I already had on the
yeah.
previous show. There's really not a whole lot of new content other than the sound bites of Mitch and Kenny throwing some 7 shots touchdowns. That's about
There
it.
isn't, man. We're so close though. We just got to get through this like last show, and then by Monday, I think there will have been no, there definitely will have been a game to discuss. So we'll be right back on it here in a minute.
Oh,
Right now, we're just
absolutely.
getting through the last little oomph of the dead zone here, and basically what I've got is just some quick hitters from around the NFL. Flashcards again. Remember it. Carolina is shopping Sam Darnold per Benjamin Albright. It seems like Baker has really taken that one role and ran with it. Also, I've noticed Matt Corral has been quite the sensation himself. So maybe that has something to do with it, that they're comfortable with Corral maybe being the 2 this year. Corral, I still don't know how to say it. But they are shopping Sam Darnold actively. They can only get a 5th-round pick right now, though. Again, this is per Benjamin Albright, so they are not eager to move him for that, considering what they gave up for Darnold in the first place last year. Next, I have this
Which
Packers
that's
receiver.
interesting. Wait, can I cut
Go
in
ahead.
real quick?
Yeah.
And upcoming opponent for the preseason game, Seattle Seahawks, which I was going to bring up too, and we'll bring it up in a minute. But it's kind of interesting that the Carolina quarterback battle actually seems like in the headlines, it's stealing the thunder away from like the Steelers battle. Like, and I
Mhm.
kind of like that it's taken a lot of attention away with the Baker and Darnold thing, and now
I
Matt
do
Rule
too.
still hasn't said a whole lot, but that leaking does say quite a bit. And I think PJ Walker's still there, and like you said, Coral. So, but that's kind of scary. I don't know. You got one injury to Baker who's coming off of a shoulder injury. That's where I think the Steelers wouldn't want to get rid of Mason based off all the 2019 stuff that we said. Mason hadn't taken a snap. Duck, he was a sensation in like training camp or whatever, but it's not like they got to develop or bring him up to speed to be an actual NFL starter. And I don't think they would make that same mistake. So, and by
Yeah,
the
I
way,
mean the Panthers aren't exactly the model of consistency to try and do the same, try to replicate their strategy. You know, so
yeah.
I'm not pushing for us to do that here. They haven't been making a lot of good choices lately.
Ugh,
Uh,
oh no, no. And here we go. Ba-boom. We got your graphic for you, buddy.
Flashcards.
Yes.
Excellent. Love it. Okay, cool. Next, I have the Packers rookie receiver, not Christian Watson, Dubs. Don't know how to say that name either. His stock is continuing up. It's kind of funny watching the parallels of this kid and George Pickens because the two of them seem to be like the most talked about rookie receivers that I've ever seen. Every single time I pull up Twitter, it's either a cool picture of George Pickens or some quote out of the Green Bay Packers camp about this receiver that they have. So exciting for them because I know that's been a big thing for years and years is get Aaron Rodgers his weapons, and they don't take anybody higher than the 2nd round for him. Well, they took this kid in the 4th round, and he seems to be working out so far. So maybe they will still be a high-powered offense this year. Again, that's a maybe, but a very strong maybe because as long as you have Aaron Rodgers, you're going to be at least somewhat successful on offense. The Chiefs have cut DeAndre Baker. That's a blast from the past. Maybe people remember that was a first round pick cornerback out of Georgia. And see the lightning crashing down again. And he had off the field issues. And I don't really remember exactly everything that went wrong with him, but he was picked by the Giants in the first round and they cut him shortly after. And the Chiefs had him last year and they just cut him. So might not be in the cards for DeAndre Baker to be a pro football player because he can't really stick with the team, and he's not that old, but he does have pedigree of a former first round pick, so maybe a name to keep an eye on. But he's also very troubled, so I wouldn't count on seeing his name resurface terribly soon right now.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt was traded. That's hilarious.
Oh, what a dumpster fire that is. He's on the last year of his deal, and he's seeing like Amari Cooper get paid and Watson have some job security and get paid, and he's like, yo, what about me? They even threw some money at Dearness Johnson this off season.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so like totally I see he feels like he's getting besmirched. By the way, do you have Jordan Matthews listed there anywhere? I'll throw the bold up.
Jordan Matthews, the old receiver, what is he? Is he playing tight end now?
Yeah, converted to tight end and got hurt out for the year. He was getting a shot with the 49ers, so
Dang.
isn't that crazy? Came in 2014 with the Eagles, I think, and it was just like, man, you got some, that comeback story, man. I mean, even though Tebow was preposterous, I was still here for it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Darren Waller really got a lot of these former receivers that like speed was never a big part of their game, but they have size and good hands and good route running, and they saw what Darren Waller has become and are thinking, I can do that. I can play tight end. I just won't block that much. So, because I noticed Devin Funchess has also made that change. And I think he's on the Packers. Speaking of them, I can't remember right now, but I think he also changed the tight end officially. And Kelvin Benjamin tried it a year or two ago. But yeah, it's the hot new thing in the streets if you're a slow, big receiver to try and play tight end. It is a bummer, though, that he got hurt because, I mean,
or a quarterback that can't throw. Although
yeah,
they usually convert them
can't throw.
Usually convert them to wide receiver, but Tebow wasn't fast either. So
no, that was never a big part of Tim's game. I mean, the Browns fans, I said this on Twitter, that whole situation always felt like a fever dream, just like not like real reality happening in Cleveland. Like, number one, nobody else wanted Kareem Hunt. Like, nobody was going to sign him because this was still like he kicked a woman in the head and it was on camera. And so he wasn't being touched by any team with a 10-foot pole, but the Browns were the one team to bring him in. And if you didn't know that, as soon as the dust cleared and people started to forget that he kicked that lady in the head on camera, he was going to want out of there and be given a real starting opportunity. He's, I'm so grateful for the Browns and giving me this opportunity. I won't take it for granted. Yeah, right, dude. As soon as people forgot and the dust cleared, I knew he was out of there. They weren't going to have this, let's be real, this a top 15 running back in the NFL. They weren't going to have him just be this backup for Chubb, like for the end of days. I knew that they wouldn't be able to make it last with Kareem Hunt. It was only a matter of time, and lo and behold, now he's doing a hold-in, which doesn't always work for everyone. So,
yeah, that's quite silly. You got any more of the old lightning round there?
I do. Really quick and briefly. You already mentioned Tevin Jenkins, who he's still not practicing. I have him on here. I have a whole cluster of Bear debacles on here because the Bears are just being snake bitten right now early.
Yeah, they are.
They went and traded for N'Keal Harry, another former first-round pick, and N'Keal Harry, the receiver from the Patriots. It's believed that he severely hurt his ankle. Don't know what that means. If you severely hurt your ankle, must mean it's broke, I guess. They're getting a second opinion on it, but that's a real shame because, like you mentioned, Jordan Matthews trying to just make something of his career and catch on and be successful. He goes and gets hurt in camp. Those are always the stories you feel worse about, are these guys that haven't really done anything wrong. Like, to the best of your knowledge, they're trying to like get it and like be good NFL players and get the plays down and get the speed of the NFL down, and that they're given this second chance or third chance or whatever, and then they get hurt in camp. Those are the saddest stories. So for Harry's sake, I hope he's able to maybe play at some point this year, but they're labeling it pretty serious. Tevin Jenkins, their second-year tackle, is missing a lot of time. I think I read he's missed 5 or 6 practices, so that is not working out for them. Remember, the guy a lot of people wanted the Steelers to take instead of Najee Harris hasn't played more than like 13 snaps so far. So maybe it's a good thing they didn't take the top-rated offensive lineman that was sliding for some unknown reason and was still available at 24. Maybe the Steelers knew what they were doing with that. Maybe Jenkins was red flagged for injuries.
And I'm trying to think who was. It might have been Wesley Euler. I hate to throw anybody under the bus. Well, I'm going to say this he totally set me up the way he was talking with Arthur Moats.
Okay.
And he totally set me up in such a way. I'm like, no, Wes, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he's mentioned Tevin Jenkins. And then he goes and says he had no interest. He like pulls that out like at the 0 hour. And I'm like, thank you, man. Because like immediately I was seeing posts from Steelers Nation. Hey, you know what? It wouldn't be bad to go get Kareem Hunt as a backup. He could really add. And I could tell that people probably listened all the way up to this point for what, we're saying. And they're like, oh, that would be great to have him with Najee. And it's like, dude doesn't want to be a backup, obviously.
Yeah,
And
he
wants
a
to get
lot of
paid.
money. Like if ifs and nuts
Steelers-
were baking the nuts every day would be Christmas and a delicious brunch. I think I got that phrase wrong, but I rolled with it.
I like it. What's a plate with effing nothing on it? Wait, I think I screwed that up. That's from Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob, and I screwed that up anyways, but I know it was a screwed up quote to begin with, so it's all fair game. But yeah, I mean, the Steelers, like everything you said on camera, kicking a lady in the head, they're not getting anywhere near that for that reason, let alone now he's demanding a trade. Do you want him to be on your roster after he's going to be unhappy in a year? It's going to be LeGarrette Blount 2.0 all over again. Like, come
Absolutely.
on, like just that's nonsense. I mean, it might be a fine player, but we all have to like pull back sometimes and remember that some of these dudes are like, they're young still, and maybe maturity isn't their strongest suit. Maybe they will mature, or maybe time will run out before they do, and I that's something that factors a lot into these decisions by, front office brass and whatnot. Speaking of running backs, though, we do have to throw that out there. It still seems like the Steelers are looking to add another running back to the stable somehow. I mean, Jeremy
That's
McNichols
real
is now
for
out.
sure. That's real. They seem to be hungry for a running back here.
So who all have we seen get tried out? Jordan Howard, Wayne Gallman, and who was the other one?
Josh Adams from the Eagles was in.
There's somebody else that was kind of more of a name brand too, and I gotta really dig to find out where and who that was. More Kareem Hunt news. Let's see. I don't know. Kareem Hunt holding in. Kareem Hunt's birthday was like during this, so I think he started it on his freaking birthday, dude. How about that? So he's like practicing and
He woke up and was like, you know what? I deserve this. It's my birthday.
Yeah. Jalen Richard.
That's right.
That's
Okay,
what it
yeah,
was.
Richard. Yeah, I would like that. I like
makes
what
sense.
Richard offers.
I'm out on Gallman though. I'm sorry. Gallman.
Yeah, he's
doesn't
never really
do
moved the
anything
needle
for-
much. Not since he was at Clemson. I haven't followed his career much at all. I've just noticed that because of the consistent injuries to Saquon Barkley in New York, that Gallman's gotten his chance to play a good bit and hasn't really done anything. So I've seen enough of Gallman.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to throw the graphic up one last time. That'll do it. I'll find different lightning bolts for you. We'll get something official, but I just had to I was hoping for more like clip art. I wanted something really cartoony. Hey, you know what? I could only work so fast over here. So
Can't do it on the fly, man.
Eventually. You know what? I've got one more other thing on a serious note before we jump into some more football as well. We have a listener of the show that's out there that is a Make-A-Wish kid, actually. And we're not part of Make-A-Wish, but I don't want to get into like the seriousness of like any of the any illnesses or anything like that. But I wanted to give a shout out to, and I'm going to try and pull up a photo here for Josh. And Josh and his we got some photos here of Josh and his family. And
oh yeah, Josh, right on, dude. Love that you're listening to the show, man.
I know, and it was very humbling to me. And my comment was, and I don't mean this any way ignorant whatsoever, was like, man, aim for the skies, Borowski, with Make-A-Wish, because we're small time compared to the big time. But there's Josh with the Steelers stuff on right there, and give you a little bit of a shout out here on the show. Best of health and best wishes to you in the future here. And that's all the more we could say. We hope for the best. We hope for the best for you. It's really tough for me to say these things. I mean, I'm not necessarily the best or most versed at things like this. I kind of equated this to something. I had a somber moment to, we talked about Dwayne Haskins and things like that in the past. And so we hope for the best for you, Josh. We also were going to have a guest at one point that used to be one of the defensive coaches with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I remember talking to, I think, his grandson, and the older gentleman was interested to get back in, have his name put back out there and get into maybe some like smaller time coaching again, or at least reminisce about the old times. And I didn't hear back on that. And I followed up maybe a week or two later, and he was no longer with us. And it was just one of those things where I was like, oh man, I mean, like,
Man,
just
dude, yeah, life's precious.
think about it. It really is. So
take it serious. Don't take it for granted. Be happy. And yeah, thank you, Josh, for listening so much, man. Made my whole day. Made the show worth it already.
It really does. I mean, it humbled me to even be asked, and I could only I could only feel humbled to be in a position where, if this brightens your day, salute to you. Hold on a second. This is gonna be the only time I ever do this on the show. You know what's coming. Hats off to you. Hats off to you, Josh. Because you know what? That may never happen again. It's going to be a rare occasion and moment to see my bald head on the episode. So on any of these episodes.
Brother. I'm doing the opposite right now. I don't know if the listeners have noticed. I'm not that important, but I have been wearing hats at an alarming rate because my hair is so long now. I can't get it to look nice unless I tie it back or have a hat on. So I don't want to do the tie it back thing for the show. So I've been doing hats a lot lately. But maybe I'll get an Uncle Jesse wave going on here, and I'll just go free balling next episode, and I'll have it all out. People can see the lines, man. But today I hopped out of the shower with little time to spare, so we got the hat on.
Oh man, that's kind of funny, and you actually reminded me of maybe something else. Have you seen like that Aaron Rodgers and Nick Cage meme that was going around? Like Aaron Rodgers.
That was so funny.
Yeah, Rodgers shows up to training camp, and he's got the hair like completely slicked back, and there it is.
Oh, yeah,
he almost looks like
there. My hair's like getting to that point where it's almost that long too. So
I know, and you've got like the shadow, the 5 o'clock shadow kind of.
I know, yeah, it should be him.
It's like the
I
same
should
way.
be Aaron Rodgers being Nicolas Cage for Halloween.
Yeah, you could totally do it, or Negan maybe. Off The Walking Dead, so you might be able to pull that one off. All right, so we went from the running backs, and it does seem like the Steelers have some interest in having some sort of veteran running back in there, but let me jump back 1 second. I had like two things I wanted to cover too.
They might get stuck with Benny Snell and McFarland at this point. If no one can impress them, I mean, there's always roster cuts, but they might just have to deal with what they got in-house. If they keep bringing in all these names and nobody's impressing, it might be Benny Snell and McFarland.
And it very well could be. I think maybe somebody gets cut from another team. They could be added. I remember the old Felix Jones edition at one point too. I gotta stop saying that. I had the dry throat. You caught me in the middle of coffee break. And I had the Mike Tomlin quote. It was actually about George Pickens was listed as first team on the depth chart that came out. Is that just a statement to what he's done so far in camp? No, it's just the fact that I have to give you guys a depth chart. So it was George Pickens.
In fairness to Tomlin's response there, Pickens has been running with the air quotes ones the whole time. Like since the first practice, he was out there with Claypool and Deontay. I believe that was the 3 receiver set, Claypool in the slot. So it's not really a testament to what he's done, albeit he's looked sick and been like our camp sensation for the most part, but he was already he's been part of the ones this whole time. That wasn't even that didn't even surprise. The only surprise on the depth chart to me really was seeing that Connor Hayward was tight end 3. That was kind of a surprise to me. Even though we've witnessed live, he was getting a lot of action and a lot of targets. So it makes sense, but it was surprising that the Steelers were willing to put him that high up for this initial depth chart. And Ogunjobi starting over Warmly, kind of a surprise, but not really, because we both believe, I think, that he is like the starter, going to be the starter, but he like hasn't like earned that yet. So that was kind of surprising to see Warmly be already his backup. And that was really it. Everything else was pretty straightforward. I know there was some outrage over Calvin Austin being wide receiver 6, but it's like, dude, he's a 4th-round pick. Like, they're not going to put him above
Well,
the other guys right now.
even in that case, George Pickens there enjoying the hydration station on the field. The Steelers listed 3 starting wide receivers. They've listed starting full, but they have like, there's only 11 players on the field at any given time, and they have like 14 on the offensive
Starters,
depth chart.
yeah.
Yeah, 14 starters. So, and they've done that with introductions over the years. They've like acknowledged in the past, like nickel corners, Will Gay, Mike Hilton, guys like that, like a 12th or 13th
As
guy
they
that gets
should.
introduced.
I think
Yeah.
they should.
Yeah.
What harm is
Absolutely.
that? Like, it's an extra 2 seconds to announce this guy and like make him feel good. It's every player in any sport. If you make it to the pros, that's part of your dream, is like hearing the announcer like say your name. So I think I noticed that too. They started introducing Mike Hilton is the one that I was like, nice. They're doing like all the starters who are at least out there for a majority now, instead of just being like the base formation.
The tight end thing, I did want to bring that up because that's kind of interesting with Connor, and they listed him as tight end and not a fullback. So he'll be there. Will they keep 4 tight ends? I think a lot of other people are also picking up on the fact. I thought Kevin Rader has still had a great camp. I'm still a big fan of his. He's the incumbent tight end 3. You got to be able to play special teams. Whereas Jay Sternberger, the comment this morning from someone was he's played way better than I've ever expected him to. And I was like, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, that's exactly the way I was thinking. You know, I'm thinking along and like listening. It's almost like you're having a one-sided conversation when you're listening to content like this, and you're kind of thinking, oh yeah, blah blah blah. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out too.
I like Sternberger is going to be exciting to watch in the preseason games. His whole part of his game that made him enticing coming out of A&M, coming out of wherever he was from, was that his receiving ability. He turned my head. I had him in a mock draft here written for Steel City Underground itself. Whenever he was coming out, I gave him to the Steelers in the 3rd round. So when we signed him last year as a camp body, my antenna went a little up, but not like severely. So I'm with you and the guy from the stands that I have been pleasantly surprised with how well Sternberger's done and how his name keeps coming up in these reports and these tweets that he's making a play here and a play there, and making it difficult on the Steelers, because I'm with you that I think Kevin Rader is the incumbent, a great blocker, has become extremely comfortable in the system and has become kind of a regular at camp. Been on the team for a while now, it feels like. So there's a really interesting battle going on there between Rader, Connor Hayward, and Jay Sternberger.
Yeah, I got to bring this one up to close out the show. And this one for sure is kind of a real sticking in my craw thing. And it's like, where have you been? Have you been living in a cave for the last 3 months minimum? And I think you might know where this is going. I'm going to bring it up here. This is Warren.
No clue, actually.
Warren Sharp with Sharp Football, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, but this just seemed like something to get people engaged and reacting. This was about Derek Watt's contract and his $4.7 million cap hit this year. It's the largest money for any fullback in the NFL, and he notes that it's 59% higher than Kyle Juszczyk, who's with the 49ers. Now, a little bit of a problem here. He says Steelers only used a fullback 7% of all plays last year, primarily special teamer, but a hefty cap hit, greater than every punter and most kickers. And I think he continues this. It's higher cap hit than every single wide receiver on the Cowboys, Packers, Colts, Ravens, Lions, Falcons, and Bears. Well, Warren, can you name any of the wide receivers on any of those teams listed? I mean, you might name CeeDee Lamb and realize, oh yeah, that guy's on a rookie contract, which makes a lot more sense.
I was just going to say, none of them have any money put into receiver, except the Lions signed DJ Shark, but usually in the first year, if you're signing a guy like that, i.e. Deontay's deal, you're not giving him it's not a huge cap hit in his first year. So yeah, dude, that's strictly for engagement. You see him sneak that in there at 11:47 a.m. when I'm at my real deal job, and then one that I get paid for. He snuck it right past me, didn't see it. And we sound like broken records. There's a handful of topics on this show, whether it's the quarterback battle, the Derek Watt contract thing. It's just we sound like we've said the same thing so many times, man. He's not strictly a fullback. A lot of his value is the special teams thing. And if you're in tune with the Steelers and you are at practices or you just pay attention at all. You can see that he is their most important outside of the specialists, special teams player, and he delivers what we ask of him on special teams,
Oh,
and that matters.
I'm not done. I'm not even close to done with this topic because this would be an article if I find some time, and I'll put it into actual words and numbers that are a little more easily readable. Especially if you're on the audio only format. If you happen to be on YouTube, I'll show you here the contracts and some of my observations as well. And one of my
The
things
Steelers
was,
want to, they can approach him and be like, let's restructure. I'm sure he'll be like, yeah.
but this is the final year of his deal. His deal. Okay, so let's put this out here. His deal overall was 3 years, $9.75 million. And in the first of these 3 years on the deal, and I got it up here. I'm gonna pull that up just a little bit bigger. His base salary was $1 million. He was like a little over a $2 million cap hit in each of the last 2 years. That's why he's a higher cap hit this year, because they backloaded some of this. Because guess what? When he signed in 2020, they didn't have cap space. In 2021, they don't have cap space. They had to ask Ben to take a pay cut in order to make this work. Let me ask you this, Flash. I'm not going to try and ask about your background and your education, but you seem like a pretty bright guy. Which number is a bigger contract to you? Would it be 3 years at $9.75 million, or let's say 2 years at $14.5 million?
Option B is more expensive.
It's more expensive. You divide it in half, and that's 7 whatever. Well, I brought up, and I understand that this is a backup running back here when I'm talking about Kenyon Drake signed with the Las Vegas Raiders last year. And they actually have his number wrong here. It's not 11 million. It's 14.5, because you can actually do the math and see where some of this comes up. But he has a void year of 4.4 million next season, where he won't even be on the team, for a backup running back that won't even be on the team.
My question to the people that get so mad about Derek's money is, what are you using it for otherwise? If you got rid of Derek Watt, we clear like 4 or 5 mil. What are you using that for? All these people that are pocket watching for the Steelers are, we should cut him. And do what with that money, dude? You're not trading for like a top tier lineman. You're not bringing in this amazing RB2. It's just going to sit there for an emergency scenario for the Steelers.
Exactly. And then you're giving him almost the same. You're giving Drake almost the same cap hit next year to not play on your team. What's the better deal here? And he had, he had 30 special team snaps, because he does moonlight as a returner. And so he didn't have nearly as many snaps as Derek Watt did. In fact, I had some of this on here. No, maybe I didn't. I think he had like not even 100 touches on offense. He had like maybe 30 carries and caught like 30 balls, or the other way around. It was like 60 rushes and like 30 receptions or something like that. A couple of touchdowns here or there just to spell Josh Jacobs. And I know some people could see the value in that, and they would say, okay, yeah, I'm with you, but not at like 7 mil average per year. That's not something I want to be paying for someone to back up Najee Harris. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't seem
That's a lot of money for a backup running back.
Versus a special teamer who played 332 special team snaps last year.
There you go.
And as your captain, he's your captain. I mean, dude's basically like a linebacker out there. So, Drake had 63 carries and 30 catches and 30 special teams. So I did have the numbers broken down. And if we keep going a little bit further, the primary guy that was actually mentioned here was Kyle Juszczyk. And I'm saying you might not want to look at Kyle Juszczyk's cap hits going forward. He plays about half of the time. Let's see, Derek Watt. Let's see, Kyle Juszczyk right here. Let's see. He's small this year. Derek Watt is he's up on him, even though the cap number is 2.9 to 4.7, right? In 2023, he's at 6.5, 7.5, and 7.5 in 24 and 25. Hello. For your fullback that plays half the time, he better be out there on special teams too, or doing something else, because that's that's like money you're paying for Miles Jack.
How long do they have him signed for, Juszczyk? He's 31 right now, and they have him signed through 25.
through 25 with no void years or anything like that. Now they could get some cap relief for 24 and 25. It's something like 5 and 6, another 11 million they could save off of that. But he had signed what was the contract? 5-year deal. It said it was worth like 27 million with 9.6 in guarantee. So that's where the thing is misleading if you read a little bit further on
So,
over the
yeah,
cap there.
to Sharp
What's
to
the
name
total
him as like,
contract?
look how it's bigger, higher hit than Juszczyk. Juszczyk signed a 5-year, almost $30 million deal. Him and Derek Watt's money is not the same, dude. And he's
No,
like,
no.
look, the cap hit is Watt's cap hit is more this year. Juszczyk clearly has gotten paid more.
And that's because the Steelers have Pat Freiermuth on a rookie deal. They got Najee on a rookie deal. Deontay was still on the rookie deal until they ripped it up. Claypool's on the rookie deal, almost like Dan Moore, if Kendrick Green or Kevin Dotson, whoever plays there. Mason Cole's money hits like next year or the year after of the 3-year deal. Same with James Daniels, same with Chuks Okorafor. Like everything was like more peanuts this year. And it just looks like, oh, well, they're paying the fullback. He's got the highest cap hit. And that number isn't the money he's making this year. It's an average per year. Because I think even with Derek Watt, like his dead cap to cap savings would be 2.7. So based on what he got, 3.25 million as a signing bonus. So
I mean, they paid Deontay, so they can shake that whole Derek Watt's the only guy on offense they've invested in, because Deontay got his money, which we were right about, by the way, twice over, 18 million a year. How you doing? And so I think the Steelers have gotten used to this pushback from the fans, like hooting and hollering and wanting the money put elsewhere for this and that and the other. But again, I double down. I ask you, the fan, the viewer, the listener, the watcher, what are you doing with Derek Watt's money if you get rid of him like tomorrow? Tell me, if there's something of substance, if there's some good player that you think we could get in here for Derek Watt's money, I'm open to it. I'll hear you out. I just don't think that situation exists. So quit bitching. There's no, it's the same thing, but different, that we always get into talking about how people just love to work themselves into a tizzy over nothing. And then when you ask them to elaborate on their point and be like, hey, well, what would you do with the money? Like, oh, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Oh man, that is rough. Hey, I was bringing this up as you were talking about Deontay to assist you. His cap number is now 7.6, so it's a moot point talking about Derek Watt. He was just trying to get ahead of the contract breakdown and announcement with that tweet. He might have been holding on to that for a while. Like I said, where have you been? That's been the story for a little while, but 7.6 and then 13.8 and 18.5, which is very team friendly. And of course, this 12.6 cap savings. So if Deontay is a drop monster beyond the next 2 years, this is something where the Steelers could just say adios, and they don't owe him as much money. It's the business of football, so
Made
the numbers
sense for
are
both
there.
sides, as they say.
Yeah, it really does. I think that was a pretty decent contract. We've got real football, well, almost real football coming up in the next Saturday night.
It counts, dude. We'll count it. We need it.
Acrisure Stadium. Oh, it looks so boring. Did you see the scoreboard by any chance?
No, I'm boycotting.
I don't know where it was at. It was a really grainy photo. I'll try and maybe get one if and when I'm at the game on Saturday. And but anyway, Seahawks, they have their own quarterback battle going on between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. So that's good. Yeah, with Pete Carroll, who doesn't have a whole lot of losing seasons, and
I thought you were going to say he doesn't have a whole lot of life left. I was like, dude,
I like
Pete. Much.
I mean, I got two. There's like 50 shades of Pete Carroll. Like, I like Pete Carroll with the Seahawks. I didn't like Pete Carroll with the Patriots. I didn't like Pete Carroll at USC. So,
same. I didn't. Yeah. I just started watching football when he was on the tail end of USC. But seeing him in the Patriot highlights and those colors, it's always a shock to the system.
Yeah, I mean, for real, it wasn't the best tenure there either. And so you've got some of these things. You've got some of these concurrent storylines within the same game. It'll be kind of interesting to see what kind of first team defenses on both sides play. And we'll throw this one out there real quick, just in case I forget. I don't know who's going to be hosting with me later this week, or may have a guest host, by the way, too. We'll see what ends up panning out here. But Artie Burns might have a shot at starting with the Seattle Seahawks this upcoming season.
Artie, let's get after it, brother.
Yeah, so I mean, you talk about
I'm
things.
rooting for Artie, dude. I'm rooting for Artie. He didn't do nothing wrong besides his on the field play, but he didn't deserve that. People treated him like he had an attitude on his way out, or he did the Steelers wrong. He tried his best, man. His heart was in it. Artie's a good person. A lot of people know about how he had to take care of his siblings and whatnot coming out of school. So I'm always rooting for Artie.
Yeah, and Artie, not only that, like he was like extremely young, just like Juju, like 2021 when he was drafted. So we talk about a maturity or maybe coming up to speed, and he was a track athlete and stuff. He got hurt with the Bears last year. I think it was like Achilles or something like that. I always
I
forget
think it
what,
was his
especially
ACL, honestly.
maybe it was ACL, but the Seahawks are trying to replace one of the starting outside corners, and people will laugh, already burnt toast or whatever. But you know what? He's been kind of sitting for a few years, learning. Maybe that experience helped. He started the Steelers out of necessity had to throw him out on the field like right away, and he had some success. He shut down Tyreek Hill before. We
He
made a
showed
big
enough
deal of
as a
that.
rookie that I felt
Yeah.
like strong in my convictions to believe in him further. It just kind of didn't get better for him after his rookie year, but he had a handful of moments where it was like, okay, maybe they picked the right player. Maybe he'll continue to get better. It just never took off for him. He fits the classic. I mean, everybody kind of has adopted this strategy now of the tall, athletic, fast cornerback. I mean, that sounds like what you would want, but the Seahawks were kind of like early on that trend, and he fits their classic style of cornerback. So maybe it's the
Yeah.
system he can thrive in.
It's kind of funny though that they had Witherspoon last year, and now
Yeah.
Witherspoon's over with the Steelers, and they that was a cross rival signing too, because Witherspoon was with the 49ers. So it's like one of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things where you go over to another team that's seen a lot of you, and they felt good enough, but they lost somebody. I'm trying to think who it was. Darius.
The Seahawks or the
Yeah,
Niners?
yeah. Seahawks did because they had their starters in place, but they lost somebody this offseason. I think the free agency, and that's why
Griffin?
they have the vacancy. Man, I always gotta look at
Did they lose Shaq Griffin or was he already gone?
that wasn't it. And if I end up looking at this little more in depth, let me see. It's really not that important in the grand scheme of things,
No, I
anyways.
know they were
It's gonna
underimpressed with
bug me though.
Witherspoon in camp, and that's how we got our hands on him. Was they gave him a deal, and he wasn't doing like too hot in camp, so we ended up swooping in and stealing him. And thank God, because I mean he's working out so far.
Yeah, I agree. Let me see. No, it wasn't. Well, they had like Trey. See, they had a couple of guys here though. Trey Flowers, DJ Reed, Sidney Jones. Remember that one from?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So some of those guys they were working out. I'm trying to remember who they had in
It's
here
the land
because
of misfit corners you're
it
going through
wasn't
right now.
Adams and Diggs. I'll have to find it. No, that's one of those things that's gonna bother me now. It's like that itch you can't scratch, and I got to figure out. But anyways, Burns is in contention there. A little bit of a preseason preview. We'll be back later this week with maybe something like that. Maybe some more news, notes, noise from training camp. Well, the way I expect it going forward, Zach, is that they'll prep for this game, and we'll see if there's still the same kind of breakdown. Maybe it will be more Mitch half 60% and then 2020 the Mason and Kenny, maybe not, and we'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll find out soon today. Hopefully today we get a little taste of that because time's dwindling before this first game, and I think practice is in what, like 2 hours from now.
Yeah, from where we're on right now, yeah. So it's somewhere around there, and they moved that to the stadium too. I'm sure the fields at St. Vincent College are just absolutely. They're probably not made to drain the way they were, and with the hills that are there. Let me tell you the quick story. Me leaving as they announced the Lightning cancellation of Friday Night Lights. Okay,
God, that
and
sucks.
I've got I have my poncho. I saw it coming like a wall coming across the field. I'm like, oh, you know what? And I'm pulling it out. I have a backpack. I'm prepared. I didn't bring the umbrella though. I hate umbrellas in stadiums. You know why? For those who don't know, I'm 6'5", and when you short folks are walking around with an umbrella, that is a weapon. It's a dagger in my eyeball. Like I almost need a visor to keep people out of there, like the quarterbacks do. So I tend to have the same common courtesy for my fellow Steelers Nation members out there. But I had the poncho and I was completely dry. I had it like it was big enough. It covers me, covers the backpack, everything else. Even walking back to my car, tiptoeing a little bit through the slosh through the grass where you're parked. Get in my car, go. I'm gonna go find something to eat, do a little bit of shopping, get out of the car at my next destination, not far down the road. And I take like 1-2 steps outside of my driver's side door, and it didn't matter where I was in the parking lot. This water was up over my shoelaces. There were flash flood warnings all over the immediate area, Latrobe, Greensburg, you name
Wet
it.
socks, bro.
Yeah.
Wet socks, nothing worse.
Oh, yeah. I went back and grabbed sandals from my room.
Oh,
Like
right on.
as soon as it happened, I was just like, man, you got to be kidding me. Like I stayed. So you could only imagine like how much of a pounding the field took. And you can't go out there on that soggy field with football where, between the hash marks gets torn up. It looks like asphalt, looks like a road. It gets all mudded. And once that grass is gone, say la vie to you're just asking for knee and ankle injuries to players, people slipping and sliding, whether in shorts or pads or
Burns
whatever.
like you've never seen.
Yeah. So they went to their own practice facilities, which no doubt probably are built. They're probably more built to drain than, they got a turf field there that they practiced on in week 1 at St. Vincent's. But it's one field, and it's very hard to cram all that on there. It's the reason they're at St. Vincent's and they don't do this at Heinz Field, trying to get 90 people and coaches, staff, and everything else all in organized in that place, in that tight area. So the 2-3 fields they have at St. Vincent's, I don't know that they're necessarily designed in the same way. And it's also potential that Southside didn't take the hammering with the same weather system, believe it or not. Like I had it where I showed up at camp. I was staying about 7 miles down the road, and I show up for camp and it's raining at camp, and it wasn't raining where I just was over in Greensburg having breakfast. It's just the craziest thing. So I don't know, man. I had to put that out there. I feel all of you that made the trip. Lots of people were tweeting out there 5-hour drives, 4-hour drives. My cousin, I'll give him a quick shout out too. My cousin was nearly there Saturday, and I'm like, I sent him, did you get the message? And he goes, what message? And then 4-letter F word via text. He was like, where you at? And I'm like, I'm going to start heading back early now. I'm like, I'm not going to hang around practice. If I go over the south side, I'm not going to be able to report on anything I see anyways. So I'm just going to, I'll just, lean into guys like Mark Cabole, Jim Wexel, and the like that are actually there. Brian Batko, Joe Reuter, all the Steelers beat.
He didn't know it was canceled, your cousin.
Well, he left so early because he's one of the guys that likes to be up on the hill by the entrance and do the photos. And he's not an autograph chaser, but he loves like the photos and see the guys up close. And that's part of
that's cool. I got respect for people that want to be close.
So he left like super early. He's got about a 2-hour drive. And it was funny because he was already there.
That sucks, dude. That's raining at the beach vibes, but like worse because it's for the Steelers.
Yeah. So among all of the people that, a lot of people made travel plans and they stayed overnight, and it was crazy. It was jam packed. Everything was super busy in the immediate area. It was popping that Friday night. They were going to have about 15,000 fans there. So I heard, which would have been about 3,000 more than the previous Friday Night Lights. The last 2 years were canceled. So 2%ers, you get a little bit of fun facts and some info there.
I feel genuinely bad, dude. And like I tweeted, I was like, man, I was going to see a movie. And I remember for a brief second, I was like, damn, I'm missing it. I hope it gets freaking canceled or something.
What were you going to see?
I was like, damn, I actually feel really bad for everybody that went. So that's how it's like, I wish it had happened for the people that made the trip to actually be able to see them live, because that does suck, dude. And looking back on it, I wouldn't have missed much. I was just bummed that I had to miss out on like the tweet updates, but I wish they would have been able to pull it off for everybody that made the trip, because if you traveled at least an hour, 2 hours, I mean, shit, dude, if someone came from Florida, that's nightmare scenario. So.
Oh yeah, there was some of that I saw in the Twitter feeds, or just people talking in general. There was some of that, and a lot of people that were staying over, because you come for Friday and you got a decent trip, you're staying over for Saturday's practice too. And there was actually something, I think they had, let me see if I can pull it back up. It came from Bert Lawton, I believe, the Steelers PR. They had 17,000 tickets distributed for Saturday's back together Saturday. So you could only imagine if they had 15,000 expected for Friday Night Lights, with that next Saturday practice, they might have pulled 20,000 people in there. That would have been absolutely phenomenal. We're talking practice, St. Vincent College, and man, you're fighting with people for elbow space and stuff like that. You got your own chairs. People got their spots under the trees and everything like that. But we're coming to a close. Children. Yeah, it's wild. So I'm not poking fun at anybody. I'm in the same boat with you. I was out there. At least I got to catch a couple of the practices. And going forward, we'll speak to some. We'll have maybe some other folks that are there too. give us some eyewitness testimony. We'll see if I get my butt back out there or not. We'll go find that out. Then we got preseason football coming up that we're going to highlight at the near the end of this week. So we'll see what ends up happening, who's active. Hopefully you get like some of the guys back, like a Chase Claypool, Najee. We'll see if he'll probably be on the snap count and stuff too. So
yeah,
it's tough to evaluate, but that's what we were talking about with the first teams. And it was, I forget who said this, but the best way that maybe to evaluate, I think they were talking about the Seahawks, somebody on XM radio, and specifically the Seahawks, was you got them working a lot with, like, you got both guys working with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So you could evaluate how they are. If you only have like one guy working with those guys, maybe those guys are making the quarterback look better, or maybe they have better timing with the other guy, and you would never know it unless you have them working with both. So it's not,
Absolutely.
the Steelers are far from the only team that are doing this. This is new to folks covering the Steelers, including myself and you. Ben Roethlisberger's been the man for so long. And the only time you would really see a lot of snaps to a Mason Rudolph, Landry Jones type, somebody like that, is Ben takes his days off. And there aren't any days off for Mitchell Trubisky or any of the other quarterbacks right now. The guy's getting some time off, TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. And, of course, Minka taking some of the mental reps since he's still coming off of the football injury list. So,
yeah,
folks, that'll do it for us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm out of breath, man. This was a pretty big show, pretty long one. We got a lot of stuff that we had to pack in here. I don't know we'll have as much to pack in. We'll just give some observations on what we want to see.
What dead zone, baby? 90 minutes later. What dead zone?
90. We could always get to talking about two things, McDonald's and football. And not necessarily in that order, but anyways, that is Zach Saladonia. We call him Flash. My name's Joe Kuzma. No fancy nickname for me. Don't give me one. I don't want it. I got enough of them. I just don't share them on the show. Until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.